Hello, I'm Lugog TV, and I finally present to you the long since promised remastered tutorial on Ceremonial Swords. Before we jump into the content, I feel it necessary to justify myself in saying that Ceremonial Swords is one of the best ways to gain smithing experience, as well as stay engaged. Activities within RuneScape are either AFKable or not. Usually, the AFKable method is slower, but requires less attention. I joke that RuneScape is the only game I play other games while playing. Making Ceremonial Swords is a non-AFKable smithing skill, and so you can expect phenomenal XP rates, but it will require your attention. I personally love this method, which is why I went from level 90 to 99 in smithing doing it alone. Alright, now that I've said that, at level 70 smithing, you are able to visit the Artisans Workshop to receive instructions to make ceremonial swords, which you make for various clients for reasons. However, you don't smith these swords like you traditionally do otherwise. Rather, you actually have to interactively shape the blade by strategic hammer strokes to the ingot in a limited amount of turns before the blade solidifies, which we'll cover later. You can begin making ceremonial swords in the Artisans Workshop, located in the southeast corner of Falador. There are numerous smithing-related activities you can perform here, starting as low as level 1. But that's not my concern. I'm here to teach you about ceremonial swords, and by God, that's what I'll do. You have my promise! You begin the process by picking up tongs from the workbench near the entrance. Then, deposit ore and coal relative to the type of ingot you care to make. Whereas a bar traditionally used for smelting requires a small amount of ore, these ingots require a lot more. Don't be intimidated by this, as the experience you gain from making a sword equals out the cost. The ingot does have to be class 4 though, which is the highest class of ingot, and as such, the most ore intensive. I'm going to make a mithril ceremonial sword, which requires 30 mithril ore and 120 coal. For your first few times, I'd recommend making a handful of iron ceremonial swords, as the process to shape the swords perfectly takes a few tries to learn. Again, don't be intimidated. Move over to the furnace and heat up the bar in said furnace. Then, receive your smithing order from either Abel or Eagle, who are standing nearby. And now, the fun part, actually making the sword. After you open the smithing interface by interacting with an anvil, you'll notice the sword you are expected to make and your untouched ingot. The example sword has instructional numbers at each point you can strike, which you want to match the sword you're making to. You shape the sword by using the striking options of soft, medium, hard, and careful. Each option has an average number it can hit, however, they can also hit other numbers randomly. But the higher your smithing level is, the more likely you will hit the average number. Each strike also reduces your cooldown timer by 1, except for the careful strike, which reduces the timer by 2. The idea is to whittle the sword into the shape it's meant to be by utilizing the different strike options. You might be a little overwhelmed at this point, but it's actually very straightforward. Bear with me. Remember, you have my promise! On the screen you can see me shaping the sword. You do this until you perfectly shape the sword, run out of turns, or break the sword. You can break the sword by making the number higher than 6 on the base of the sword, or an 8 at the tip. This is the worst case scenario, however, as you lose the sword and get nothing back for it. After you finish the sword, return it to either Abel or Eagle for your reward. The first reward you receive is a hefty amount of experience, which scales with how well you've made the sword. And if you made the sword perfect, then you'll receive 120% of the base experience for that type of sword. Look at the experience you can receive, it's absolutely crazy. I was gaining over 300,000 experience an hour with mithril swords alone, and that was without any bonus experience. The second reward you receive is respect within the Artisans Workshop, which can be spent by speaking to Olaf in the basement of the building. You gain 1% of respect for every 10,000 smithing experience you gain within the Artisans Workshop. You can spend respect on a bunch of different things, such as an option to automatically refill your dwarf cannon with cannonballs, as well as cosmetic skins for your cannon. I personally loved being able to keep the ceremonial swords which I make perfect that look similar to the style that I bought. A few tips I'd like to leave you with are: 1. Never use a hard strike when you need a 3, especially if a 4 would break the sword. 2. Bring more ore and coal than you would need, as you'll likely break 1 or 2 swords. And lastly, something I should have mentioned much earlier. this is one of the cheapest smithing methods there is, as a perfect mithril ceremonial sword currently costs 5.5 GP per XP. Now I hope you'll give ceremonial swords a try, as honestly, I think they're incredibly fun, especially when you can do them quickly and consistently get those perfects. Thank you all for watching this video, and please consider subscribing if you've enjoyed this content. Take care, and God bless.